Jon Mendez here, and this is the next in our series of how-tos. This one's all about prop wash or paddle wheel effect. How does the propeller actually convert what's happening into drive and how you can use it to help. We often get lots of comment that our videos are on shiny big boats with all the modern toys, so we've gone back to basics. This is a 1950s wooden launch which has been lovely restored and converted to electric so that we can hear a nice silent drive system as well. But it's ideal for what we want to show, as it has a nice exposed tiller so you can see what's happening with the helm. We've got a nice exposed throttle position here so you can see what I'm doing with the gears. So what does the prop wash do to the boat, and what is it? Well, it really relates to which way handed your propeller is, and they come in left or right. So a right-handed propeller means that when the boat is viewed from astern, it's turning in a clockwise motion, going to the right when you engage the engine ahead. And conversely, when you engage the engine astern, it's turning to the left. So what does that really mean? Well, if you could imagine that the propeller was a paddle wheel, when we put it into a head, it's trying to paddle the stern of the boat in a clockwise direction. So it's trying to make the boat turn, and that's one of the things that we need to know to make our boat handling easier. Now, when we go astern, it tries to paddle it the other way. And lots of people are always perplexed as to why is the paddle effect much stronger in astern than ahead. Well, three things really. The propeller's designed to make the boat go forward. So the propeller usually has a slight bias in how the blades are bent to drive the boat in a forward motion, because we spend 99% of our time going forward and maybe 1% in astern. Secondly, the bow of the boat is nice and sharp, so it cuts through the water much more effectively, whereas the stern is really quite blunt. So the effect of the propeller driving in astern is much more pronounced, because the boat can't drive in astern as quickly because the transom is nice and flat, so it tends to move the boat more to a side. And thirdly, the shape of how it's turning affects its performance in the water. So those things combine to make your propeller more efficient in the head and prop walk more pronounced and obvious to spot and use in astern. So how can you tell which way your propeller is handed? Well, obviously if the boat's out the water, you can look at the propeller and look at the leading edge of the blade. Is it to the right of the trailing edge, or is it to the left? And that will tell you straight away. But if your boat's in the water, that's not particularly easy. The other way is if you can look at the shaft, and on this boat the shaft, we have a little panel we can lift and we can see it. And we've put a little red marker on it so you can see what happens. When one looks at the shaft, as I put it into a head gear, we want to note which way does the shaft turn. So viewed from astern, is it turning to the right or turning to the left? So when I go ahead, you can see our little red mark, it's rotating in a clockwise direction viewed from astern. So we've definitely got a right-handed propeller. And obviously when one comes to neutral, it stops. And when we go astern, it will turn to the left. And what's really nice with our little electric engine is because we can do very, very slow revs, you can see this motion quite clearly. So what we need to think about is how do we use the helm effectively. So when I put the helm in the centre and put it into gear, you can see the wash happening quite happily. If I put the helm all the way over to port, which is when we want to be turning as tightly as possible, you can see how the water's being directed over and driving the boat all the way round. Then when I go astern, you'll see the stern kick across, which is being done by the prop wash of the boat in astern. And that's the two motions that we use, helm fully over and then astern, and that's what really turns the boat. So the best way to explain prop wash really is to show you a little demo. So we're going to turn this boat pretty much using the prop wash. So we're just going to go helm hard over. So the bow is now going to starboard on the rudder, and now we're going to go neutral on the engine and straight into astern. So that prop wash is continuing the turn. Now that prop wash is continuing the turn and buying me a little bit more room. Now I go ahead, Just catch the bow with a little breeze holding the bow there. A little bit of revs now. Just drive that bow up towards the wind, watching the size of the box. And we're coming round really nicely now. Start to straighten the helm. And out we go. And all of that is done with the helm not being changed at all, because we're using the prop wash to walk the stern of the boat over. The rudder is just working on the ahead side of things. So in conclusion, once you've sussed out which way your boat wants to turn from its prop walk, and particularly which way it wants to walk the stern of the boat when you go astern, you can turn the boat in quite a small space with full control, being positive with the throttle and by not changing the helm. It's something that you need to practice to get confidence with, but it really does work.